You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you for joining me here today on this Mindset and Motivation Monday, where we're going to start this week off right. Really looking forward to today's show. I've had this kind of in the background for a couple weeks now, looking for the right opportunity to be able to bring you the notes on this particular topic because, it's something that I've been accumulating over the past, let's say, month or two in my practice, thinking about, what's going on with people when they have the right information, but they're not able to act on it, or they don't have the right information and it's holding them back from the results that they really want in life. And that's what I'm talking about today. It's how do you get out of this funk and into a flow state? And there's so much to this, but the bottom line is this. You look at people around you right now and they're saying, how do they get so lucky? How do they get to live this life? How do they feel like everything is just attracted to them? Meaning like they're like a magnet and they just attract all these great things into their life. Where me, I'm kind of sitting in the background and it seems like I get all the unlucky stuff or I get all the bad breaks. Why is that? Well, one is called the funk and one is called the flow state. And the funk is actually it's a real word. It's funny. I didn't know if it was just slang or what, but it's in the dictionary and it's defined as, so essentially when you look in the dictionary under funk, it simply says this, a state of depression. That's it. You're in a funk, you're in a state of depression. Or as I would rather say, maybe not clinical depression, meaning like you haven't been diagnosed with clinical depression, but you're in a low state. You're in a real low mood, meaning you're feeling kind of like you're in a dark place. Or the other definition actually to being in a funk is trying to avoid a task or a thing out of fear. Meaning that a lot of times we know what to do. We really do. We know what to do, but we just don't want to do it for some reason. And why is that? Well, we're going to talk about that today. The other thing I like to say is this, just real layman's terms, right? This is how I like to talk. This is how I like to think. In my opinion, you just say a state of depression, all these different things. Okay, we can get really clinical on it, but we can also say this, that being in a funk is like feeling like you're stuck in quicksand, that no matter what you do, it almost makes you dig a little deeper, that you feel like you're drowning. No matter how hard you try sometimes, you're just stuck in the same exact place day after day, week after week, month after month. It's like Groundhog Day every day, right? And so what's the issue with this? Well, the issue is this. You try a weight loss program. It doesn't work out for you. You get disappointed. You get back into that funk, or you lose the weight. You're excited. And then, you have a couple bad weekends. It slides into a Monday, Tuesday. You gain all the weight back. That puts you in that low state. Or you try a wellness-based plan, you start to get results, you're getting motivated, you're getting excited, then all of a sudden, you relapse. You're right back where you started, right? Same thing with career. You feel like you're moving forward, you're putting in all these hours, and then you're not recognized whenever the promotion comes or whatever it might be. It's like this and can be like this for all of life. And I think we've all been there before, right? I mean, this is part of the human condition. The problem is this, why did we get in this funk in the first place? And I think a lot of times it's this, is that we can lack the information to actually move forward. So the problem is we're always in motion, right? Humans are always in motion. We're always doing something. We're never really just stuck in bed the whole day, right? Or even being stuck in bed is doing something, right? It's pushing you further away from whatever you need to achieve. So here's the thing though. Sometimes we really do lack the information. Like a lot of people come to me and they've tried so many different things. They've been on Dr. Google all day, looking up all these different herbs to use and all these. And what happens is, although they're searching the answer out, the information is eluding them. And that's because they've just been sold a bad bill of goods, right? Whatever they've been told to do is not the answer for them. And I don't think it's malicious on anyone's part. I mean, to be honest, I don't. I think the information is out there. There's obviously a lot of information. And it's written, I think, with good intentions. I don't think it's all marketing. I don't think everybody's just trying to sell you something. I think people are trying to put out some good articles. Yes, some things lead to whatever they're trying to sell. But maybe it's exactly what you need. I mean, that's another way to look at it. But then oftentimes, we'll put it this way, that it's not the right answer for you. So it can be the right answer for someone and not the right answer for you, because these things in life can be complex. Meaning like weight loss may not just have to do with calories in and calories out. More times than not, it doesn't. I mean, we've done over 250,000 wellness and weight loss-based consultations, anti-aging in there as well. 250,000. That's pretty much bigger than any study that almost any university or anyone has done. We have a ton of clinical data. Very few people are eating too many calories and not moving enough for when they really can't lose the weight. Now, initially, yes, that there's some truth to that, but not when you've been at it a little while. So what's the truth? Well, there's a lot to do with blood sugar. There's a lot to do with hormones. There's a lot to do with optimizing your nervous system. Like there's a lot that goes into this, and that might not just be available to you in terms of information initially, all right? Initially. So that's one reason, is maybe you are trying to do well. Maybe you are acting. Maybe you are, you're putting forward the effort, but you're not getting the results. That's even more frustrating. The second part could be this, though. The second part can be sometimes you just lack the motivation to actually do it. To lack the motivation to get moving forward. This could be for multiple different reasons. So when I got really sick many years ago, I had motivation and I would say, you know what? I can't live this life. This isn't for me. I have bigger plans of myself. I never saw myself like this. I'm not this type of weak person. I don't know what's wrong with me. And so I would get fired up and I would go then reach out to another health practitioner and I would go see them and I would be excited. I'm like, this person's going to have the answers. This makes sense. And I would do it. And I wouldn't get well again. So I would just be stuck there again. And then that actually demotivated me because I spent money, did more whatever they wanted me to do, and I still didn't get well. So I was frustrated. And so that put me into a funk. It put me into a depressed state. There's no doubt about that. Clinically depressed, not clinically depressed. Honestly, at the end of the day, I'm not sure that it matters whether you're diagnosed with it or not. If you're feeling low mood, if you're feeling down, if you feel like you don't really want to do anything, that you don't even really want to participate in life, which is how I felt, that's a depressed state. Call it what it is. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's a depressed state. Depressed means low. That's it, okay? So I was in that state and I would get stuck there and I said, why should I go seek out another health practitioner? Why should I read another book? Why should I follow another plan when the last half dozen I've been on didn't work? What's the point? I don't understand this. Obviously, these might work for some people, but they don't work for me. And again, if you've ever experienced this with anything, again, it could be relationships. Maybe you've gone on a half a dozen dates with a lot of people where you're like, how do I keep getting set up with these particular people? These are not the people that I want to meet. It seems to be leading to nowhere. It seems like all the good people are already taken. These are things that we hear a lot, right? From friends and from others just in our circle. Well, that will demotivate anyone from wanting to go out and meet other people. Like that's a big thing. Same with career. You might say like, oh, well, I'm in my 50s now and I missed my window. I really wish I did this with my life, with my career. And that will demotivate you too. Okay. If that's the mindset you choose to use. And again, I'm saying that with a lot of respect because I've been there myself many times. So again, I would rebound. I would get excited. Said, okay, this time's going to be different. This is what I'm going to do. And again, I would get the same result. So after a while, believe me, I understand. It can be very depressing. It's okay to say, I've been in a depressed state. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you as another person who's participated in this thing called the human condition. We all go through it, but the best way is this. We need to figure out a way out. I'll tell you the reason why. Because if you're in a funk state and you stay there long enough, it is a vicious, perpetuating cycle, a self-perpetuating cycle, which means one low mood thought or depressed state thought leads to another one, and you start to attract more of exactly what you don't want into your life because it's all you think about. You think about how unlucky you are. You think about how all the bad things always happen to you and all the good things always happen to your friends or siblings or whoever else it might be, right? Those good things aren't meant for you, or that's not part of your group, your circle, whatever it might be. And again, it really does become that self-perpetuating cycle because then you don't seek out the good anymore. You seek out what you've kind of brought into your own little comfort zone. And your comfort zone, although it's not comfortable, has led to you to this one place. And you are, again, back in that proverbial quicksand. You're essentially, the more you kind of squirm around, just the deeper you get into it. And you're up to your neck and you can barely barely see your way out of it, but there's a little bit of hope. And that's all we need. Because really the way to get out of this funk state, and it is a state because it's a state of mind, which also affects our body. Our psychology absolutely does affect our physiology. Okay. How do we get out? Well, we need to somehow break the cycle. There is only one way to do this, and you cannot do it gently. You need to literally rip off the Band-Aid, break the cycle. Well, easier said than done, right? The first thing you have to understand is that this happens to everyone. It is not unique to you. A lot of times when we get in these bad spots in life, we feel all alone. We feel like a victim. It's normal because a lot of people are not talking to you how I'm talking to you right now. Everybody hides this stuff. And I hid it forever, right? I hid it forever myself as well. But I decided if I hide my story, it remains my story only. And I know there's a lot of other people who have gone through this because I meet with them every single day in my practice. And if I meet with them in my practice and they have the same story as me, well, it makes me feel not as lonely. It makes me feel like maybe there's other people out there a lot like myself. And that actually gave me a lot of comfort. And then when I started my podcast, I didn't really share it that much, or I shared it in a very strange, awkward way. And then I realized, well, a lot of people seem to have shared, if not now, well, in the past, a lot of the hardships that I went through. Not exact, right? Because we're all unique. We're all unique in our own little way. So if I can at least share some of what I've seen in my practice and in my own life, I hope that that's able to give you a little of that same hope. And so how do we do this? How do we break the cycle? How did I get out of it? Well, I made a choice one night. I've shared this story a few times before, but I made a choice one night, and it was a really dark night. It was one of the worst nights, and I hope that you never have to experience this for yourself. But like a lot of nights, I couldn't sleep. It used to take me 3-4 hours to fall asleep. I'd get to bed maybe at 10 o'clock or so. It'd be 1 o'clock in the morning. That's a typical night, 2 o'clock. And I'd have to wake up by 6 or 6:30 the next day for school. And I just wasn't asleep. And it was, again, like this is a really bad cycle in my life. And, I was getting really down on myself again, a lot of negative self-talk and the why is me? And why does this happen to me? Why doesn't it happen to anybody else? And all these different things. Like I'm a good person. What, why did all this happen? I'm making all these deals and say, if I get better. And that, the truth was though, it never happened. I never got better. So that night I decided that this was no longer going to be my life. And I said, I'm not going to sleep again tonight. I know that. I know I'm not going to fall back to sleep. There's no chance. I'm already fired up. I can't get back to sleep. And it's no longer worth complaining about it. So I got really mad, really upset. And I said to myself, no matter what happens, whether I get well, don't get well, whether I never sleep another night in my life, I'm not going to complain about it. I know I'm a sick kid right now, but I'm not going to act like it anymore. That's it. I am done. I am done feeling sorry for myself. I'm done living this life. I have a lot I want to accomplish. And I might not have the energy that I want to accomplish all those things, but I'm going to at least chip away at it. I'm going to at least move forward. I'm going to live my life so that I don't look back and have all these deep regrets. And I don't know what hit me, because I didn't read the self-help books. I didn't read the self-improvement books. I wasn't even reading books in general back then. So I don't know where this came from. But I'm obviously extremely grateful that it did happen. Because at that moment, I decided that I was no longer going to be a victim. It wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to be me. I lived my whole life that way up until that point. I really did. I felt sorry for myself a lot of the time. Although I might have been try to excel and do well, I still had a negative outlook with a lot of things. And maybe that was part of the community I was a part of. Maybe that was a part of a lot of things, right? But at that moment, I realized that it wasn't working. It just wasn't working. And I couldn't do it any longer. So I simply said, no more. It's just not going to happen anymore in my life. And that was the date. That was it. From that night on, I woke up, again, I didn't sleep that night, but I woke up the next day and I actually had a little bit of a half smile on my face. I felt like something was different. Now, of course, was life perfect from that moment on? No. I still used to get sinus infections during the winter and it would happen like twice a month. I would still get all sorts of highs and lows in energy and I didn't get better. And the truth was, I didn't get better for another couple years, but my mindset was different. And it allowed me that when I would get low in the future, that I would pick myself back up because my new mantra was that I wasn't going to be a victim. This was not going to be my life. I just simply refused to live that life. So what I'm recommending to you right now is you don't have to have the same epiphany, the same whatever. All I need you to do is this, is I need you to pick a date. When is that moment in time that you're going to decide that you're no longer a victim either? That you no longer have to live in that funk state if you don't want to. And let's not kid ourselves. The next day after that may not be perfect. I'm not assuming that it will be. Most likely it won't. But that's okay. Because it's not going to get better until you decide to make it better. And that's the hard truth. That's why that's why I really do love this podcast. And I really love where I'm at right now in my life, career, all of those things. That's because I have nothing to sell at all. Like whether someone decides to go with the brand that I formulated with Equilibrium Nutrition, do a lab, whatever, that has nothing to do with the education that I'm trying to provide people. Nothing at all. And I want people to know sometimes there is no overnight fix, as in most of the time, there is no overnight fix. What people do and should understand is that you can get better, you can get well, you can lose the weight, you can meet the right person, you can re-mend the relationships, you can do anything you want in your life, and that includes career-wise, and that includes if you're in your 50s, 60s, and yes, 70s, that there's a lot of life left to live, and that you can experience anything really that you want to. You can find a mentor, you can read a book, you can develop a plan, but in order to do that, you need to get out of that funk, and you need to get into the flow state. And the flow state is when things start to come easier to you. And things come easier to you when you expect them to come easier to you, because you start to see possibilities where difficulties used to always exist. And does it mean things will magically appear to you? Well, sometimes yes and sometimes no. But I can tell you this, is that you can't wait for things to happen to you in life. You need to actually make them happen. Meaning that things don't just drop into your lap. You happen on them. You go after them. If you want to change careers, well, it doesn't mean you need to stop your current one, but it does mean at night, early in the morning, during your lunch, that you start to research, study, take actions. I'm telling you this, even just searching out new information is exciting and motivating, right? If you have a wellness-based issue, a weight loss-based issue, you want to switch careers, you want to look to get into a new relationship or develop your spirituality, whatever it might be, just the act of moving forward, just the act of searching out new information, new, not the same old, stop reading the same stuff. It didn't work for you before. Don't continue to read it now. Look for the new things. What's going to excite you? I'm telling you, one video, one podcast, one article can change your life because it rewires how you now think about things. That's really what it's all about. It's a rewiring. A flow state, again, is where things start to come easier to you. You've refused to complain anymore. You've already picked the date. That's the date. That's it. You're no longer a victim. Now you are a co-creator in your life, right? Things don't just happen to you. You happen on them. You start to make decisions. You start to take the right actions. And I'll tell you right now, when you focus on possibilities instead of why things won't work, you're going to make the relationships you need to make things happen. You're going to find the mentors. You're going to find the friends. You're going to start to go to a seminar or an event, and you're going to meet new people. And all of those same exact people share a lot of the same visions that you do. So they can become lifelong friends. They might become business partners. Or you might open yourself up to new information that literally you never had access to before and that you wouldn't have had access to had you decided that you are the creator of your life. That you are the one who's literally going to take the actions that will forever transform your life. That means the actions that you take tomorrow and the week after that, the month after that, are who you will be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And again, we all go in and out of this flow state. I'll tell you this right now. If every day you work calmly to reaching your goal, right? You don't obsess on the end result, but you know in the distance, this is where I want to get to, right? But you're not fixed on the path. You don't have to be fixated on the path. There's not just one way to get there, but you're focused on the end goal, knowing that you can do this, right? So it's a mindset shift that you don't have to be perfect because none of us are, but that you are moving forward. And the one thing you can do is move forward, right? You might not be perfect, but you can move forward. And what does forward mean? Well, it just means better than you were yesterday or last week. It's not how your friend's doing, right? It's certainly not how your siblings or family are doing. It's how you're doing. You can't compare yourself to other people's flow states because a lot of the times you're looking at things that aren't true. You're seeing an outward version. You don't know what the insides of that person are. You don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what happens when they go home at night. You don't. All you can focus on is you. And I'll tell you right now, if you work every day just to making you a little bit better, that's it. A little bit better. You read one article, you listen to one podcast, you watch one video that motivates you every morning. That's what I do. It already starts to move you into that flow state. Get away from the news. Get away from all the things that are negative in the world. Move forward towards the positive. Draw those things into you. I'm telling you right now, the work that you can be doing, the work that you're probably already doing right now is great. We just want to build off of that, right? And if you don't feel it's great, well, then that's good. Then you know that you have more potential. You know that you have more in you right now. And I'm telling you right now, you don't need to do a lot more than doing right now. You just need to rewire that mindset and to focus more on possibilities than problems. And I want you to then pick one plan of trajectory, okay? So focus on one thing right now in your life. One thing that if you accomplish that, your life would be tremendously different. That you would be a new person. And that because of accomplishing that one thing, probably everything else in your life would get better. For me, it was getting well. There's no question about it. Because I had poor relationships. And I had poor relationships because I was stressed out. I was sick. I couldn't go out. I got sick if I stayed up late. If I drank alcohol, I would get sick again. All of these different things. So I knew that was my one thing. And if I wasn't sick too, I could then transform my body, which was important to me because I was a former athlete and all these different things. So that was my one thing. For you, you might be happy if you get the new job, the new career. Well, that's your one thing to focus on now. Again, this isn't the focus for the rest of your life. But it's the one thing that's going to get you into a flow state. It's the one thing to focus on that's going to remotivate you. I'm telling you right now, if you allow yourself to get into this newfound motivation, and that new motivation then allows you to take one more action to move yourself forward, this is how you get into a guaranteed flow state. You don't have to think about being in the flow state. You do one thing that motivates you, that allows you then to take action. And you just seize that momentum and you keep pushing forward. You keep pushing upward. I'm telling you right now, I personally believe you can do this. And I'll tell you why I know that you can. Is because I've seen people from every walk of life in my practice. Okay? I've been there myself. If I can do it, I have no special skills. None at all. I probably have worse genetics than you. My genetics, and again, we're not going to get into the comparisons, but my genetics are not the greatest, right? Absolutely not the greatest. I don't know the hand I was dealt when those genetics were being given out. But I'll tell you right now, if I can do it, and if thousands of other people in my practice can do it, you can do it as well. There's no special sauce to this. There is moving forward, taking action, committing to a plan, deciding that you are not a victim and that you are the creator of your life. I know you can make this happen. Thank you everyone for tuning into another Cabral Concept. I appreciate your listens. I appreciate your shares. So if this show helped you at all, please do feel free to share it with someone else you believe it will serve as well. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only two ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.